The first prize. This is from the time when, by your prayers, we passed 7th grade and moved into 8th. In school we were quite famous. Whether it was the sports ground or the literary club, our drumbeat was loud everywhere. In exams we always came first. For speech competitions, the school would send only us, and we would defeat our opponents completely and return with the prize cup. In short, we had created quite a sensation. A few days later, the literary club announced a poetry gathering, a mashera, in school. It was actually a kind of competition. Whichever student recited the best poem in the mashera would receive a prize of 50 rupees. The office bearers of the literary club began the preparations with great enthusiasm. The school hall was decorated like a bride. A loudspeaker system was arranged, and a famous poet from the country was invited to preside over the event. 2 days before the mashera, the headmaster called us. When we reached his room, the second headmaster and our class in charge were also present. As soon as he saw us, the headmaster smiled and said, "So, son, have you written a poem for the mashera or not?" Hearing this, the ground slipped from beneath our feet. Tell me, had any of our forefathers ever done poetry that we would do it? Seeing us silent, the second headmaster twirled his mustache and said, "Oh man, what's so hard about writing a poem for you? At most it'll take 5 minutes." As if even Mirza Ghalib could compose a ghazal in 5 minutes. He, the teacher of teachers. For us, even 5 centuries would have been too little. Before we could reply, our class in charge completely took our breath out. He said to the headmaster, "Sir, don't worry at all. He will definitely participate, and he will definitely win the prize. Mashallah, there's no child as intelligent as him in the whole city." "Absolutely, absolutely," the headmaster smiled. "Now the school's honor is in your hands. Other schools have also been invited to participate. It would be very embarrassing if, in your presence, some other student takes the prize." The second headmaster slammed his fist on the table and said, "We'll see how any other school's boy can take the prize while he's here. Go, my son, start working from today, and begin writing the poem." With trembling legs and a pounding heart, we reached home. We quickly ate and went to our room, pulled the quilt over ourselves, and started thinking how to escape this disaster. The poem we had to write for the competition was titled Maktab, School. We knew the meaning of Maktab, but we didn't know how to write a poem, what meter was, what rhyme was, and what on earth radif even meant. We had the pencil between our teeth and were diving into the ocean of thoughts when the door burst open with a bang, and our elder brother descended into the room, holding his hockey stick. "What's wrong? Why are you lying under a quilt early in the morning?" he shouted. We were furious, but controlling our anger we replied, "It's 2 in the afternoon. You're calling it morning. I'm writing a poem for the school's mashera." He laughed and made some ridiculous joke that truly shattered our brain, as if to say, "So you're doing poetry now, ah-ha-ha." There was no doubt left. Our brain really was going to be ruined. We got genuinely angry and said, "Yes, my brain has gone bad. Yours is excellent. No wonder you fail FA every year." Hearing that, our brother vanished from the room in an instant. We turned back to the poem. After 15 or 20 minutes of struggle, we somehow wrote 2 absurd lines. Just then the door opened again, and our father appeared, boiling with anger. We sat up in panic and hid the paper. "What are you doing in your room at this time?" he stared and asked. "Why didn't you go out to play today?" We stammered. I was actually, what nonsense are you talking? Your brother just told me you're doing poetry? This poetry is extremely cursed. Beware, don't you ever do poetry, even by mistake." We tried to explain, scared. "No. Actually, there's a mashera in school. The headmaster told me to write a poem, prize 50 rupees. "Enough! Shut up, you donkey. Tomorrow I'll come to school with you and ask your teacher, do we send our children there to study or to do poetry and masheras?" Terrified, we said, "All right. I won't participate in the mashera. Please don't go there, otherwise they'll be upset with me." All of this was our brother's mischief. He was the one who had provoked father against us. Now tell me, in this state, how could we write any poem? Frustrated, we thought, "To hell with this mashera. Tomorrow we'll tell the headmaster clearly that father doesn't approve of poetry." The next day we reached school, and were about to head for the headmaster's office when he himself came into our class. As soon as he arrived, he announced, "I'm sure you'll be very happy to hear that our school's excellent student, Jahangir, is also writing a poem for the prize mashera. We pray from the heart for his success." Hearing this, the boys began clapping happily and started congratulating us in advance. We were still thinking what to say when the headmaster immediately asked, "So, son, have you written the poem?" We thought, if we deny it, we'll not only be humiliated in front of everyone, but we'll also break the headmaster's heart. So, forcing a smile and crushing our heart, we said, "Yes, it's just about to be completed. Tomorrow morning I'll recite it to you." His face turned red with happiness. "Bravo, bravo! I think you should take leave from your teacher and go home today to complete the poem. Tomorrow is the Mashera." Our teacher immediately allowed us to go. We came home crying over our fate. No way to escape came to mind. We used our brain, but no plan worked. Only one solution remained: find a ready-made poem titled Maktab, preferably by some unknown poet who had already died, so no one would recognize it. Suddenly we remembered a place where old Urdu magazines and books were sold. We thought we should search there, maybe luck would open. We reached the junk dealer's shop and began flipping through old magazines and books. Some of them seemed to be from the time of Prophet Adam. They contained poems and essays on every topic, but no poem titled Maktab appeared. Finally, disappointed, we picked up a torn old magazine that had been lying under the shopkeeper's counter. The moment we opened the first page, our eyes fell on a poem. We jumped with joy. It was a poem on Maktab, and by some unknown poet whose name we had never even heard. The shopkeeper fixed the price at 4 annas, and we bought it instantly. The next day in the evening, the Mashera was held. We bathed, wore a new sherwani and pajama, put on a jinnah cap, and arrived at school like a proper groom. Countless guests and students had gathered. The hall was glittering. Famous poets and scholars of the city were sitting on the stage. Soon the elderly gentleman who was to preside arrived. Everyone was introduced, and then the Mashera began. One by one, students recited their poems. Everyone received applause. Then our name was called. Before we could rise proudly and walk to the stage, the headmaster stood up and began praising us heavily. This and that, such and such, telling the audience to listen carefully to our great poetry. So with a pounding heart we stood, stumbled to the stage, pulled out the poem from our pocket, and began reciting. First, our voice was naturally sweet. Second, the poem was excellent. The applause was so loud the whole hall echoed. Each couplet was demanded again and again. We got tired of bowing and greeting, but the people cheering didn't get tired. At last we finished and returned to our seat. Everyone's eyes were fixed on us. After a while, the judges announced, "Jahangir Sahib's poem is the best, so the prize is awarded to him." The hall erupted with claps and slogans. Suddenly, the presiding elder stood up from his chair, laughing. Then he stopped his laughter and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Jahangir Sahib has been awarded the first prize for the poem he recited. But for your information, I submit that this poem was written by me several years ago, and it has been published in several magazines. I can provide proof. Therefore, the prize should be given to me. I thank Jahangir Sahib for reciting my poem in such a fine manner." After that, the rest of the story isn't very interesting. Just know this much: the school people carried us home, put us on a charpoy, and left us there, and for almost a whole week, we didn't step outside the house.